This video is Golf Nerd Patreon support team. Go to patreon.com/discgolfnerd. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Disc Golf Nerd Plastic Podcast. I am back with a new episode after a long hiatus, and hopefully I'll be getting back into posting more of these episodes more frequently, but we'll see. It's tough. Basically, I started to kind of weigh my options, and it just takes a lot of time to put together these episodes. Talking for an hour, the editing takes more than an hour. It always takes more than just the sheer length of time it took me to record it, at least just to edit, trim it down, turn it into a video, post it, upload it, export it, all that good stuff. Just takes a long time. So, and then it doesn't necessarily get anywhere near the view counts on average as any of my other content, but I know that at least a few hundred of you guys seem to stop by and check out the episodes, and I wanted to be able to put some out for you and hopefully be able to zoom in or Skype in some people and do some more interviews and stuff, because that's what I really, really like doing with the show. It's okay just to kind of catch up with you guys and talk about me and, the stuff I'm up to, and kind of do solo episodes, but I think it's much better when I have people to talk to about things or interview. Part of what made me want to get back into doing them is that the other day I was playing Zelda. I was looking for something to listen to. I'm kind of burned out on a lot of my entertainment these days. And I thought to go back and listen to one of the episodes I did with Scott Stokely. And I just recall that being a fun conversation where I learned a lot about the early days of disc golf. And Scott was just really great, super honest and natural, and just did a phenomenal job. And I really liked that interview and that episode in general. And going back and listening to it, I was pretty impressed with how it all worked out, mostly due, again, to Scott being very good on the mic and having great stories and information about the literal, earliest days of disc golf. So if you're a new player that's just getting into it now and you're curious as to how a lot of that stuff went down in those days, you can check out that episode and learn more about the plastic and kind of the scene around disc golf in the early days. Is pretty interesting. But I was thinking about it. I was like, I like the show, and I think it's worth the effort. Put it out there, and I know that some folks like to listen to it. So here I am. I'm back. Hopefully, be able to keep the ball rolling, but don't hold me to it. You guys know, with this show, it kind of comes and goes, and it's going to be dependent on how I'm feeling. How much time I have, and if I can connect with other people and all that kind of good stuff. So we'll see, but here I am with another episode for you guys to check out in the meantime. And I just figured I would ramble about a few things and just kind of catch up to where we're at here. I don't even know the last episode I did. It was probably me and Andy sometime last winter, I would imagine, like later in the winter. I'm not exactly sure, though. Man, this year has been absolutely brutal, to say the least. I've been severely depressed throughout a large portion of the calendar year, really just dating back till March, when everything really started to go sour, and it's been absolutely horrendous. March was kind of scary and strange. April was starting to be an adjustment, and then May was one of the worst months of my life. I have a lot of personal kind of things that, I don't know, just personal things with family members that have passed that all kind of line up with May, and that just doesn't work out very well for me and my mental space. So I knew that was going to be tough, and it was every bit of it, if not worse than what I was expecting. I started to feel a little bit better in June, and then July was horrendous again, and it's just been this just awful roller coaster of emotions and stress, and it's just been terrible. I'm sure a lot of you guys have gone through similar things, and at this point, starting to feel like I'm coming out the other side of it and learning to kind of gather up the scraps of like a life that I had and like try to put it back together and see what I can do kind of going forward. But just to be brutally honest with you guys, that's where I'm at. I hope everybody kind of enjoyed or hopefully appreciated the amount of content I was still able to produce in that time during this year. Like, I've put out a lot of videos. I feel like I have. and tried to make the most of a bunch of time at home and stuff. So hopefully you guys like the content and you're still happy with the channel and sticking around to catch the new reviews and other things that I have going on. And now that I'm feeling a little bit more like myself, hopefully I can start this podcast back up and just keep the ball rolling in a more positive direction, trying to work towards things. And yeah, hopefully the rug doesn't get pulled out. If it does, it does. And I'm just going to keep going until then and see what happens. So a couple of new things for me. I did a live stream just out of the blue the other day. And that was fun. So I might start doing some more of those as well to kind of supplement the podcast, a little bit more long form, talking, hanging out, taking questions from people, interacting with you guys on the chat board and stuff. I had a great time with that. I think maybe 50 or 60 folks popped in to say hello, and I answered some questions and messed around a little bit. And that was definitely fun. So hopefully I can continue to do some of those as well. This winter, rainy days and stuff, I can pop on there and say hello and hang out with you guys a little bit on the live stream. It's very easy to do that now, which is great. I don't have any of the like bells and whistles to do anything interesting or really anything very good. I really just have a webcam that's built into a cheesy Chromebook that we have, and it seems to work up decently well in terms of the audio. So you guys can come hang out with me when I start to do more of those. I'll try to let everybody know, especially if I'm going to plan one ahead. But they might be somewhat spontaneous, just kind of pop in and see what's going on with everybody. Other updates from me, fun story. Sometime last month, we went out and played a practice round for an upcoming tournament out at Mccormick, which is an interesting course that I've only played a handful of times. I think the first time I ever played it was like February or so, and then I hadn't played it again until recently. We played 2 rounds out there the other day, but it was great to finally get Anthony, James, and Andy, all 4 of us out there on the course for what seemed like quite a while since we had done that. 2 rounds. The first round, they were James and Andy have gotten into doing skins matches with each other to kind of simulate some kind of like tournament pressure on executing putts and shots and stuff. And it's just, pretty minor, but it's funny because they're kind of playing it alongside the casual round that I'm having. And we got to hole 15 at McCormick, and they had carried a bunch of skins into that. I think it was like 7 or something like that they pushed on in a row. And get there, James throws his shot. It was a star shrike, and it's like a super narrow tunnel, and the basket is just off on the left side of the trail, more or less, the fairway down this pretty tight wooded shot. And the way it comes out of his hand, it looks like it's dragging towards the left hand side and it's going to hit early, and then right at the perfect time it turns a little bit. Andy's sitting next to me and he goes, uh-oh. Like the second it caught that turn, we knew where it was going, and it caught the perfect little flip up right over to the right, fades back out, and just dead center splashes the chains. So he won the side pot. He won all the skins, and it was hilarious. It was just a sick shot, and Andy was beside himself for the rest of the round, which was always amusing for me. And yeah, really fun. Next time if you play McCormick, think of us when you get to that long wooded hole. The T sign says it's a par 4, but I don't think it is. I think they moved the basket to a different location or something. I don't think it's actually a par 4. It's definitely not like a short hole though, for sure. It was a sick shot, and one of the best shots I've ever seen in person. And I think the only other one that I can really think of that would compete with it, I will say humbly, was my ace at Stub, which was until then far and away the best shot I had seen personally. And that's, not like I've seen anything super crazy, but just in my own experience playing out there, mostly casually and with friends. So other things. Okay. Today, if you guys follow me on Instagram, you probably saw in my story that I just got in like all kinds of stuff out of nowhere. It all just kind of ended up here at the same time, and I have a bunch of new plastic and some other gear to test and review. So stay tuned. I got a box coming from that it came from Sun King, and I will be doing an unboxing for that probably on Friday with a whole bunch of awesome stuff. I'm not sure when I'll post this episode, by the way, so this might not line up. It might already be out. I might post this next week. But yeah, I got Origins, Essences. I got 2 Blowflies. I got some discs from the Black Zombie company, which is a new company, and then another new company as well. So stay tuned. I'll do a full unboxing to show off all of that great plastic. I also bought myself a nice backup fuse. I had some credit to an online retailer, and I bought myself a fuse. I also got myself a medium Keystone. Now, the Keystone is a putter that I have tested and I reviewed in the optoplastic, but I have not tried it in the actual like baseline putter plastics before. My magnets are just not feeling right in the hand. I keep having these rough days on the green, and it's really frustrating me. Typically, putting is one of my better attributes out there in the course, or has been for the last few years at least, and it just really seemed to leave me early this year, and it's still a complete struggle. It's really frustrating, and I just wanted to kind of start fresh and see if I could shake the cobwebs off. Maybe I could just figure out some kind of different feel in the hand or a slight change to the grip or something. Like, I know all the pieces are still there for me to putt well, but for some reason, every time I get on the course, the magnets just aren't really feeling very good in my hand. I tried a Pro D magnet that I've putted with in the past, again recently, with mixed results. I used my Jawbreaker again out on the course a couple days ago. We played Buxton and we played Stub, and just still, yeah, I hit like a couple of decent putts, one nice like circle's edge putt for 2. Other than that, really struggling, having short misses. Really ridiculous. And so I figured I would grab myself a medium Keystone. It's got a very different feel in the hand. As much as I love the magnets, they just have a little bit of a weird under edge shape to them. The softies that I love so much and that I throw all the time are so broken in that the bottom legitimately changes in the way it feels compared to like a fresh Pro D magnet or like a Jawbreaker or something. For the longest time, the Jawbreakers were money, but I'm just having a lot of trouble with them lately, and they're definitely frustrating me. So we'll see. It's an experiment. I'm going to try out the Keystone and see what happens, and the worst thing that could happen is I have another good kind of beginner putter laying around that I can give to somebody to try out, or I could do a giveaway or something, or just hold on to it in case somebody needs a disc to come play. It'd be a great straight flying disc for sure, kind of an understable putter, but that's kind of what I like too. So I have high hopes for it. It feels really nice. I got a 0 medium, which is a great plastic. It's like firm enough that it's not floppy in the hand, but it's got more of a rubbery, tacky grip to it in the hand that I like, especially heading into the winter months here. That was the interesting thing about this weekend, is that the weather has changed drastically very quickly here in the Pacific Northwest, and it got down into the 30s for the first time this year, and we were out there in some pretty brisk conditions, and all of my discs felt different, and you start to already notice how like they seem to have a little bit less glide, or you're just not quite throwing as far, and then even like a soft magnet or softer plastic firms up really quick. So pretty interesting, and it's always a little bit of an adjustment, but I feel like I play some of my best golf in the winter. I like playing when it's cooler outside. It doesn't really bother me. And down here in the kind of Portland Valley, the Willamette Valley, it's really not all that, it's not all that cold in the winter where you really don't want to be out there. You know, it's not going to be snowing much or anything along those lines. If you get good weather, sometimes you can have a relatively warm and beautiful day in December, January out here, depending on how things go. So couple other topics, and I'm not going to go super long with this episode. I kind of figured I might be able to stay more on top of the episodes and get more of them out if I don't go quite as long, you know, hour plus. If it's an interview and I have like a guest or somebody lined up, which I have a few people that I've been in contact with throughout the year, and it just didn't quite come together. But if I do have like a more long form interview set up, I'll let it go for as long as it's going to go, even if it's me and Andy or me and James and Andy or whoever chatting about stuff. I'll let it go for as long as it's feeling good and we're talking about things and it's making sense. But if I'm going to do these solo episodes, maybe I'd be able to stay more on top of them if I keep it a little bit shorter. I'm not going to give you guys any spoiler alerts. It's been quite a while since these events happened, but we've basically seen the season wrap up. The Pro Tour finale was incredible. The final round was unbelievable. Really great battle between Chris Dickerson and Kevin Jones, the two kind of flagship prodigy guys. And They did not disappoint, came down to the wire, and Kev Jones taking down, I believe, the biggest purse in disc golf history at $20,000. Pretty cool. I'm never one who's like super worried about the payouts per se. I don't really think that's that big of a deal. I feel like it's only kind of part of the equation, especially when you see people like Simon, who, you know, doesn't really win much at all and sometimes has really poor finishes, but he's still a very successful person through his YouTube channel, through his own kind of disc sales, because he's such a known, a known person and has so much fame and has so many fans out there from his style and the fact that he's been around forever and all that stuff has basically allowed him to be really successful with disc golf without actually having nearly as much success as guys like Eagle or Calvin, who are, you know, probably making less money than Simon, all said and done, even though Calvin is arguably the best player in the world this year. We've been talking about that a little bit. Who's the best player in the world? It's a pretty tough call. I kind of lean towards Calvin. I think Calvin's probably our best player. The crazy part of it is that when you talk about like the top five, even when they're playing their best, they're basically birdieing almost every hole. Like, it just gets so stupid now where they're just shooting these 15, 16s. It's unreal. So it's really tough to say who's the best player right now. I don't really know, but I think you couldn't really go wrong with Eagle, Calvin, or Paul. I think Ricky had an incredible rest of the year after the kind of second off season. And all in all, I just got to say, just huge shout out to the Disc Golf Pro Tour for pulling it together, figuring it out, rolling with the punches, and doing an absolutely incredible job to bring us all fantastic disc golf to watch for this whole season. I mean, so many people that are fans of other sports, nowhere near as lucky as we are to have had the season that we had, man. It was just phenomenal. Great tournaments, great coverage. They rolled with it. They did what they had to do to make it work, and I think they did a really tremendous job, and huge hats off. Thank you to all the people that did all the work to make that happen, to our players being out there on tour, getting to do what they love, entertaining the fans, and honestly kind of putting themselves at risk to do so. I didn't hear anything about any disc golfers on tour testing positive anytime or having any like major issues with that. So hopefully that is the case and nothing got like swept under the rug or anything. I don't recall anybody notable kind of falling off the tour mysteriously or anything like that. So I think we pretty much did a great job of keeping the players safe. I didn't do anything. I think the sport of disc golf, the Disc Golf Pro Tour, really ended up doing a pretty great job of keeping everybody safe while maintaining a pretty damn solid season overall. We didn't get the national tour. I'm still pretty heartbroken that I missed out on so many things, what a lot of people did, but Beaver State and Portland Open being one of those things that just got axed immediately based on the time of year that it was supposed to take place and everything. It was just never going to happen. So that's unfortunate, but Disc Golf Pro Tour finale was phenomenal, and it will be on ESPN2. One major distinction between this broadcast and the thing that happened on CBS is that the ESPN2 program is not like purchased time. Basically, the CBS thing was paid for. It was like they more or less purchased the time slot in order to show the piece that they put together. So it was all at the expense of mostly Dynamic Discs and a lot of the other manufacturers throwing in to put this thing together and get it out there. I didn't get to watch that because I don't have CBS. I didn't pull that together. I was thinking about trying to sign up for some kind of a cable service or whatever, but I didn't really want to risk anything with my credit cards at the time. I really didn't have the money to kind of risk accidentally paying for a month of YouTube TV, which is really expensive at this point. I didn't feel like worrying about any of that stuff. So I was like, whatever, I'll watch it on Jomez when it came out. I already knew what happened. It's not my favorite course to watch anyway. The Country Club, really not my favorite. It looks pretty on camera, but I don't find the golf to be all that interesting. But, you know, everybody has their own preferences, and I do like the variety on tour and having different things to watch. But this thing on ESPN2 will not be purchase time. It'll be a full, you know, kind of more normal broadcast on ESPN. I'm excited to see what happens with that. I'm going to try to figure out how to watch that. I think I can figure out something. Even though I don't have cable, I think I'll be able to watch it in some way. I'm not exactly sure, but we'll see. Hopefully I can. Either way, I got to watch it live on the Disc Golf Pro Tour YouTube channel for the final round like they've been doing all season. That rolls us back to the USDGC. Now, honestly, for all intents and purposes, the USDGC might not have happened in my world. Like, I know who won. I have a vague idea of what happened, but I did not pay the money for the coverage, and I figured I would watch it when it comes out eventually. It's supposed to come out at some point. I forget when. But I think Central Coast is supposed to put some kind of post-produced coverage for it eventually, and I figured, hey, I'll watch that at some point during the off-season, and I'll see what happened and whatever. They decided this year that they're going to go ahead and essentially double the price that it was last year, but even more so because it was $29.99 to get the live broadcast and also the post-produced coverage, which was free last year. It was like $10, I think, for the live, and then the post-produced was free. And then this year they said, you know what, you have to pay for post-produced as well. And if you buy the live for $20, you don't even get the post-produced included in that. You have to pay another $10 for that, or you can pay more money and get a disc as well. Now, the disc deal was probably your best bet because I bet you a whole bunch of people got that disc and are just going to hold on to it and try to sell it down the line, or maybe people flipped it immediately to collectors or whatever and recoup some of their money towards the whole deal. That kind of made sense to me, but I don't know. It frustrates me that I didn't like the call at all. I think it's pretty silly to be like, hey, I know that the entire country is in an horrendous spot financially for a lot of people, unless you own Amazon or a toilet paper company or you make hand sanitizer. A lot of other people are in terrible positions financially. Businesses are closing every day. Restaurants are just plummeting. And it's just, at this time, we're going to go ahead and decide that, hey, if you want to watch the only major of the year, you get to pay $30 to watch the live broadcast for 4 days and the post-produced coverage, which I think at that time was kind of just trimmed down live coverage, basically similar to like the smash cut that Johnny V used to do a couple of years ago. So I was not too keen on supporting the whole endeavor personally. It's their deal. Like, if they want to try to do that, that's fine. I think it's pretty silly and definitely frustrating. I don't think it was a great idea. I think if Innova wasn't so hell-bent on cutting everybody else out of the USDGC and pretending like this is our thing and nobody else can kind of get a seat at the table, maybe they wouldn't have so much financial trouble running the event if they didn't kind of pretend all of the other manufacturers cease to exist because they're playing at Rock Hill. The whole thing with the USDGC has never really been my thing. The wide open fields with just like rope making it a hole somehow, like the bean hole, the triple Mandos and stuff. None of it is my thing at all. It's whatever. So I don't know. You know, I respect it. It's definitely an incredibly difficult tournament. It's incredibly difficult to win. It's all the best players in the world. I will watch it. I am excited to see the coverage and see what the course looked like this year, see how everybody did and the actual context for how things went down. But I did not have any real interest in paying the money for it. I had considered it and maybe had, halfway through the tournament, maybe for the last 2 rounds, if like Ricky was leading or the cards were like really awesome and I really wanted to see the cards, I maybe would have shelled out the money at that point to watch the final round. But it's not that big of a deal. One way or the other, if I don't watch it, it's not that big of a deal, and to pay the money wouldn't be the end of the world. I just thought it was a little bit of a strange thing to, again, of all years, to try to kind of pull this move and all of a sudden place this huge value on something that's been free other times and was only $10 last year, plus free Jomez, I believe, was last year. And now all of a sudden, I don't know. I definitely wasn't my thing. I was not super stoked on the whole deal, and that's more or less the gist of it for me. I'm sure it was great. I heard that the coverage was good. I think Ian and Philo seem to be well received, I guess. I'm fine with the way they've been working together on Central Coast. It's been going good for this season for the few tournaments that they've done and they've covered. I've really enjoyed Ulibarri and Germ and their whole deal on tour this year with the practice rounds on Jomez and all that kind of stuff's been great. And there's been so much good free coverage that I'll go back and watch that stuff. And it's not that big of a deal that I didn't get to see the USDGC again. It's not my favorite tournament of the year by any means. It's probably one of my least favorite of the different courses that are played on tour. See what they do next year with all that, and hopefully we get a World Championships next year because that's where it's at for me. I think that's my favorite tournament of the year, the one that gets me the most pumped up. The funny thing about the pay for the USDGC that I thought was interesting is that a lot of people were comparing it to the UFC and the fact that the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championships, fight cards, if you purchase them on pay-per-view, are like $50 or so, 50 or $60. And I just think that's another in a long line of just hilarious comparisons. Essentially, the UFC is like a multi-million-dollar broadcast with athletes that are being paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. Even the guys on the lowest of the low of cards are probably making as much, if not more, than big, first place prizes for disc golf tournaments for A tiers and probably even some of the smaller pro tours. Right around the time of the USDGC, and people were making this comparison. Colby Covington fought Tyron Woodley. Tyron Woodley's like not by any means a fan favorite. He's a former champ, but he's had some of the most boring title fights of all time. He had lost like 3 fights in a row or something leading into this fight. He got completely destroyed in the fight. He made $400,000 to step foot in the cage and attempt to win the fight. So to compare that to the USDGC, where Chris won, beat all the best players in the world and got like 10 grand, not really the same thing, perhaps. The UFC employs thousands of people. They're a multi-billion-dollar corporation. It's just a pretty hilarious comparison to say, oh, well, you have to pay, it's just funny to compare whatever coverage was put together for any disc golf tournament ever, to compare that to something like the Ultimate Fighting Championships and a pay-per-view broadcast for them. Pretty hilarious. Also, you can get ESPN Plus, and there's all kinds of free fights that are on there all the time, and that is like $5.99 a month, which is less money than the Disc Golf Network, which is the Disc Golf Pro Tour streaming thing. So like it's kind of funny, but interesting how people like to make those comparisons without actually really taking a moment to actually think if it makes hardly any sense. Really, it kind of doesn't, in my opinion. But man, it's been a great season overall as a disc golf fan. It's been a terrible year for me personally, and for a lot of people, I'm sure have had it worse than me as well. I'm well aware of that, and if that's the case, if you've had a tough go, my heart goes out to you. You're definitely not alone. Stay strong. Try to figure out how to hold on to the things that make you happy and that you enjoy doing and that make you feel fulfilled, and work towards those things. And sometimes you just got to put blinders on and just kind of move forward, trying to do things that you like to do and that you love doing, that make you happy, kind of regardless of what else is going on. That's more or less what I'm trying to do at this point. Hold it together and enjoy my time in this life best I can. But it's not always something that's super easy to do, unfortunately. But it is what it is, as they say. One of the other things I got in the mail, I didn't tell you guys about yet, was a new bag. It is the Dynamic Discs Paratrooper bag, and I will be testing and reviewing that bag. Huge shout out, as always, to the great folks at dynamicdiscs.com. Dynamic Discs for hooking me up with that bag, and I'm happy to test and review it. I've also been in contact with some other bag manufacturers, or at least one so far, and I'm looking to get more into that content over the next year or so. So look out for that if you like checking out different disc golf bags, or you like the channel, you like listening to me ramble about gear. but you're tired of only being the discs, then you can keep an eye out for some bag reviews and hopefully maybe some other gear as well throughout the year if I can figure that stuff out. So I don't have much else for you guys. I just wanted to get a quick episode in to kind of check in, say hello, and give you guys something to listen to and just kind of know where I'm at with everything. Going to keep trying to keep the ball rolling with the reviews. I have a couple in the can already that will be rolled out over the next few weeks. I have the footage left for, I think, at least 2 other discs that are tested, and I have the flight footage. I just need to sit down and actually compile the reviews for those. So those will be coming out soon, and then I'll be right into testing all this other stuff that I got. One of my Patreon supporters, Max, hooked me up with a couple of Sinus, Sinai. I got a pair of Latitude 64 Sinus putters, and I will be testing those. I'm going to actually just post a new review because I hate my old review of that disc. It's terrible. And this way I can put in some good flight footage of the thing flying. And then I'll also have it in stock to compare it to other discs. And I might do a video testing it alongside like a Zone and a Caltrop and a Tactic and maybe like a Pig and stuff like that, and see where it lines up with those other discs. I also still have a pretty substantial amount of overstable mid-ranges right now that I've been stockpiling over the last year, and I will be doing a large comparison video with those eventually as well. So stay tuned. A lot of plans and not as much time, and we'll have to make it happen. Hopefully we'll have a relatively mild winter and I'll be able to keep everything rolling best I can. But as you know, weather permitting, I'll find some days in there to get out and do some filming and keep it rolling. But if it slows down a little bit, I'll find other things to make content for. In the meantime, for next spring, I really hope that there's some chance that this kind of 2020 phenomenon can somehow be encapsulated in the actual calendar year itself and not just be like spilling into the next several years. Hopefully this was an isolated, awful, terrible year and we can put it behind us and move on. I kind of don't really think that's the case. People have been kind of acting all year as though this was going to magically end in December and everything was just going to be beautiful and perfect after that. It's not really how life works, but it definitely has plenty of room for improvement, and hopefully we can move in the right direction in a number of different ways. Thank you so much to everybody who continues to support the channel and support me. If you like what I do, please consider subscribing to the channel if you've not done so already. You can also check me out on Patreon, patreon.com/discgolfnerd. You can join the Disc Golf Nerd Patreon support team. It's only $2 a month, and you can get your name listed in the credits of all the videos. There's a few like alternate takes and other videos that are exclusive to Patreon right now. And I'm going to be looking into doing other things that way. I've been thinking about potentially switching to hosting this podcast on Patreon as well as like a perk to the Patreon supporters. And then if you dig the show and you want to listen to it, it can only be $2 a month. That's something that I'm kind of toying around with. I'm not really sure, but I think that might help kind of grow the Patreon, which would really help me out in a number of different ways. It's really been huge to have the support of my fans and stuff during this year with all the financial problems and stuff. And I just hugely appreciate it to the people that have supported me on there. So yeah, if there's anything I can do for you, you guys know where to find me, hit me up, and I will be happy to, answer questions or any of that kind of stuff for all of my viewers, but absolutely for my Patreon supporters as well. So you can go check that out if you want to. Patreon.com/discgolfnerd. Once again, thank you to all the sponsors that help the channel as well. And you guys will definitely be seeing a lot more content from me coming up soon. Much love to everybody out there. I will talk to you soon. Cheers.